All right, I'm starting out with the assumption that you already have your characters and your background ready to go, and that we're going to start coding the chase game. So you should have 5 characters, and they should be named properly. So you should have a hero, a target, a villain, a second villain, and a home base. All of those should be here and ready to go before you proceed with these instructions. And they should be approximately this size, proportional to your screen, approximately. You can adjust them a little if you need to. All right, so we're gonna go right into this. So the first thing we need to do is code the movement of the hero. So our hero character is going to have to move left, right, up, and down. So in order to do that, I'm going to bring out a forever loop. There are many ways to do this, by the way. So if you have your own way, that's fine. This is one of them. So I'm going to bring out a green flag and a forever loop. And I'm going to bring out 4 conditionals. And I'm going to go to the sensors, and excuse me, that is not the right one. I am not, if the key up, key down, key left, key right. If he's going up, that means he's going in a vertical, and that's the y-axis. So that means we need to go to motion, and we're going to say change y by 10. If he's going down, he's changing y, but because it's a downward direction, it's a negative number. So we're going to say change y by -10. For going to the left, that's on the x-axis. So he's going to be going left, change x by -10. And if he's going right, you're changing x by 10. So now if you click on the green flag, you will see that your character moves up, down, left, and right. What we want to have the character do is, he's a little bit big. I'm going to size him down a little bit more to, say, let's 75. What we want to do is we want the character to respawn on the opposite edge when he reaches an edge. So when he gets here, I want him to come out the other side. So you can do that a couple of ways. Some people say when touching edge, go to the other side. I'm not a fan of that. What I do is I bring out another green flag. Move this out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my backdrop actually so you can see the XY axis a little bit better for this. So the layout of the Scratch stage shows the X axis, which is this horizontal axis, and the right edge is at 240. X is at 240. Let me get this back to the code. X is at 240, that's the right edge, and the left edge is -240. So basically what we want to do is we want to say when the hero gets to the right edge, in other words, the X value is at 240, then we want to switch the X value to -240. So there's many ways to do this. Here's the way that I prefer. I'm going to bring out another forever loop and 4 more conditionals. And then we're going to go to the operators, the green, and we're going to bring out a greater than, which is the arrow pointing to the right, a less than, another greater than, and another less than. So it says greater than, less than, greater than, less than. Doesn't necessarily have to be in that order, but that's how I'm going to do it. And so for the first one, we're going to say if his X position is greater than 240, and I'm going to make it 235 just to give him a little bit of extra leeway. Sometimes it just gets a little bit iffy if you do it exactly 240. So I'm going to say if his X position, and that's under motion, you go down here to these ovals, and I say if his X position is greater than 235, they want to set his x to negative 235. So let's test that out. If I run that and I click the green flag, you can see now he's doing what I need, which is he's respawning on the opposite edge. So that's going to the right. It's a little bit more complicated if you're younger and you haven't done this coordinate grids or even number lines, but to the left, he's moving in a negative direction. And sometimes it's confusing because the number is getting larger, even though, I mean, not larger in size because it's further away from 0, but it's actually a smaller number. So that means it's when his x position is less than negative 235, in other words, if he's left of negative 235, then we want to set his x to 235. For the y-axis, it's not a square here, it's a rectangle. So the highest, the top edge, is actually y180. So we're going to say if the y position is greater than 175, again giving that 5 pixel a little bit of cushion, then we're going to say set the y to negative 175. And at the bottom, just like we did with the x, if the y position is less than negative 175, then set his y to 175. Now, if you've done this correctly, and you might need to double check it, I see a lot of errors sometimes. If you've done this correctly and you click the green flag, when you move your character up, down, left, and right, you will see that the respawning happens as you want. I'm going to switch my backdrop back to the regular backdrop here. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is the scoring. So when we go to our code for, once again, I'm gonna move this off to the side. Now I've got 2 green flags going, right? And what I want to do is I'm going to make a variable for the score. So you click on variable, make a variable, and you say score. You can say for all sprites, it's fine. I don't need this one, I'm going to delete it. And then you're going to make a second variable and call it lives. And then you can take those and move them whatever convenient space you want them to be. Now to do the score, again, I'm keeping these things separate because it's easier to debug when you're looking for problems. So I'm going to bring out another green flag. I'm going to zoom it in for you. And we're going to start out by saying we're going to set the lives and the score to what we want them to be at the beginning of the game. So we're going to set the lives to 5. I'm going to give him 5, whatever you want. And then I'm going to change the score and reset the score to 0. All right, so now we need to gain a point every time he catches the target. In my case, the target is this Pikachu. So I need to bring out, once again, another forever loop. Oops. What did I just do here? There we go. A forever loop. And we're going to say a conditional. We're going to say if he touches the target, so I'll pull this down and change it to the target, then we're going to change the score. Whoops. Got to go to variables. We're going to change, not set, change the score, pull this down so it says score by 1. Now that isn't enough because if I do that now, as you will see, the score is going to go up crazy fast because it's going up at the speed of your refresh rate. You want him to do this so that each unique time the hero comes in contact with the target, he gains a single point for each unique contact. Now I'm just going to go right to how to do that. Sorry about the noise of the siren in the background if you're hearing that. We're going to go to the wait. We're going to say wait until wait until, and then not touching the target. So what that does is, when you reset it, now it waits until the hero has moved away and then retouched the target again before it gains an extra point. Now we need to do the same thing for the other two, except for that this time, if he touches them, he loses a life. So a little bit of a shortcut for that is to now take this conditional about the score, just pull it away for a moment out of your forever loop. And if you right click, or sometimes it's a 2-finger click on a trackpad or something like that, and you say duplicate, then you can see I've just duplicated that code, and I'm going to do it one more time. Now you have to be careful here because I've done, for the target, he's changing the score by 1, and then he's not waiting until not touching the target. Now we have to adjust these. So we're going to say if he touches the villain, one of the villains, we're changing the lives, not the score, by -1. We're subtracting 1 from the number of lives. And then we're saying wait until not touching that same villain. And then you've got to do exactly the same thing for your other villain. So change the lives, wait until not touching the other villain. Now you can put all 3 of those together, but we're not quite finished with that because we want the home base, whatever you're using as your home base, to be a safe zone so that if he's over that, he doesn't lose any lives, but he also can't gain any points. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out one more conditional here. Let me move this off to the side for a moment. We're going to bring out another conditional, and we're going to say that he only, this part right here, where he gains points and loses lives, only happens if he's not touching the Pokeball, or the home base, in my case, the Pokeball. So I'm going to say if he's not touching the home base, then and only then, so you have to take all of this code and put it inside this. This is a mistake a lot of people make. They put the conditionals in the wrong order or inside each other, so you got to double check that you have this correct. This is on the outside. This is the first condition that has to be true before these other ones will be targeted. Triggered. So you're going to go and put this inside like this, and then all of this inside the forever loop. So if you're having some trouble with this when you're later looking, double check that these things are just as written here. Okay, so the only other thing is I would like my hero to start on the Pokeball on his home base. So I'm going to put right here under this green flag, I'm going to go to the motion, and I'm going to say go to home. So he starts on his home. So when I click on the green flag now, he's waiting on the Pokeball. All right, moving on. Next, please take your 3 non-player characters, your NPCs, and place them on the screen wherever you want them to be at the start of the game. So just move them with your mouse and put them where you want them to be. When you've done that, go to each one. So I'm going to start with my target. I'm going to select it down here, make sure the target is selected, and I'm going to bring out this go to, the XY. That's because whatever you've got him at now, this automatically sets. So it's a shortcut to doing that. So I'm going to do that for each of these 3. This is going to be used later, but I'm just trying to get them into position. Okay? So each of your 3 NPCs should have this go to, which is their start position. All right, I'm going to start with the target. We're going to now program the 3 NPCs to bounce around on the screen. In order to do that, you go to start with the target, and we're going to click on events, bring out a green flag, starting to look familiar, and then we'll attach this go to X, Y position. So that's when you click the green flag. Even if I move him now, when I click the green flag, he goes back to that position, his starting position. Then we're going to go to motion, and we're going to just have him rotate into a random direction so that he will start to move in a random direction. To do that, you bring out a turn, either left or right. You bring out a turn, and then you're going to go to your operators and say pick random. And you can just put a range of numbers in here. It can be 1 to 360 if you want. I'm going to put, I don't know, 60 to 80 for this one. What that means is his direction is going to move, is going to randomize each time you start the game. Then you say, you go to your motion, you go to your controls, and you're going to bring out another forever loop. And in this one, you're going to say move. And whatever number you put in here will be how fast your character moves. So I'm going to start with 10, but you can change it to slow it down to like a 5 or a 6 or speed it up if you want. And then you're going to go down to the bottom of the blue motion and say if on edge, bounce. Meaning, of course, if he hits the edge, he's going to bounce off the edge. We have one last thing we need to do, which is to set the rotation style to don't rotate. If you've done this, when you click on the green flag, your character will, and if you click on it again, go back to the home spot, change the direction to start to bounce around. Okay? Now we want the same basic code to be for the two villains. So the simplest way to do that with Scratch, since it's almost identical, except for their starting positions, and maybe their speeds, which you can change, is to take the code, grab the code, the whole thing, and drop it down on top of each of those other 2 characters. If you've done it right and you click, you will see that code is now in that character. Now, if that doesn't work for you, another way to do it is to take that code and put it in your backpack. So you click on backpack down below, drag the code into the backpack, go to the other character, and pull the code out of the backpack. Once you've done that, you have to make 1 or 2 changes. So I'm going to start with my first villain here. This is the starting position that was copied from the target. I don't want that, so I'm going to move that away and I'm going to replace it with what I had put in here earlier. So now that's where my villain's starting position is. I'm also going to change the speed so they're not all moving the same speed. So I'm going to have this villain move faster. And I do the same for the other villain. This is the starting position that I had done earlier. I need to delete this and put this starting position for that one. And I'm going to have him move slower. When you're done, all of your characters should start to move around on your screen. All right, you're getting close. Now you can test this out if you want. You can click on the green flag and have your character go, and you'll see that your lives should go down when you get caught by your villains, and your score should go up when you capture your target. But of course, your lives are going to go into negative territory because we haven't dealt with how you lose the game. So that's the next stop. You're going to go to your backdrops, and we're going to create a game over screen. So you're going to go to your backdrops, click on the tab that says backdrop. I'm going to get rid of this one. And the first backdrop, I'm just going to call play game. Oops. And then you either right click or two-finger click and duplicate it and call this game over. Now your game over screen should be vector. So if it says convert to vector, it's not vector and it needs to be. So click on it. If it says convert to bitmap, you're good, so don't change it. Once you're in vector, it's easier to add text. You can do text with bitmap, but that's a whole other thing. You don't want to do that because it gets all fuzzy. So you're going to click on text and you're going to say game over. If you want to change the color of it, you can do that up here. And then all you have to do is click on the arrow and you can size the text. Okay? So you should have two backdrops, one that's for game over and one that's for play game. Okay, we're going to go back to our hero now and we're going to finish our coding. And that's going to be for game over. So we're going to do, I know we already have, as you can see, 3 green flags for our hero. One is for movement, one is for wrapping, one is for the scoring. Now we're going to do one more for the game over. So I'm going to bring out another green flag. I'm going to zoom it in so you can see it better. When the game starts, I want the backdrop under looks to be play game. Then I'm going to bring out a forever loop. I'm using a lot of those. And a conditional. And I'm going to say, I'm going to use a less than, right? I'm going to say if the score is less than, so you go down to your variables and you grab this oval that says score. I'm sorry, I don't mean score, I mean lives. Sorry about that. If your lives are less than 1, in other words, if they're 0 or lower, don't use equals 0 because there can be some glitches when you do that. So if the lives are less than 1, then we're going to switch the backdrop to game over and we're going to stop all. Stop all is in your controls. Okay, make sure, this is an error I see all the time, that your stop all is right below the switch backdrop to game over inside this conditional like this. If you put your stop all by accidentally here, then what you're saying is stop the game immediately. So make sure it's here. Once you've done that, your game is essentially finished. You can add sound effects. Let me just play it once so you can see my game end. As you can see, I scored 4 before I lost all my lives. So there are many more things you can do to enhance the game. Animations, sound effects, you could add some power-ups, you could make it so that they win the game if they have a certain amount of, if they have a certain score before they run out of lives. Okay, so you could make a win, but those are all things that are additions. This is the basic game, and you are finished when you get to this point.